You are listening to the Coins, Currency, and American History podcast, presented by Littleton Coin Company.
Every great civilization leaves behind its ruins, its art, and its heroes. But the story of America can be told through something smaller, something we can hold in our hands. A coin. Coins are the fingerprints of a nation. This is the story of the United States of America. From colonies to social experiment to global economic leader. When Jefferson won the presidency in 1800, he described it as the triumph of one vision of America over another. The Revolution of 1800 was peaceful, but it marked a deep turn in the nation's political identity. Federal power would shrink, state power would rise. The country would move closer to Jefferson's dream of a decentralized republic. Yet, even as Jefferson's administration doubled the size of the nation through the Louisiana Purchase, it quietly set in motion a different kind of turning point. One not marked by territory, but by money, confidence, and the machinery that made a country function. That turning point arrived in 1811, when the 20-year charter of the First Bank of the United States expired. Congress let it close, and in the silence that followed, small cracks began to appear, almost invisible at first. By 1811, the Democratic Republicans dominated Congress. Their memory of Hamilton's financial program was not fond. To them, the First Bank resembled the very institutions Americans had long resented under British rule: elite, urban, and closely tied to commercial interests rather than rural ones. They believed local banks served citizens more directly. They believed credit was most safely managed near the people who used it. They believed a national bank imposed unnecessary hierarchy. So when the charter expired, they simply allowed it to vanish. James Madison, now president, did not fight to preserve it. He had once stood with Jefferson against Hamilton's system, and for a moment, it seemed natural to let the old Federalist institution fade into history. The Republic now had no national financial anger, but the consequences of that absence did not appear all at once. Instead, they came slowly, like distant thunder. Once the national bank disappeared, state legislatures moved quickly to fill the space it left behind. New banks appeared everywhere. Some served established cities. Others opened on the frontier with only modest reserves and tremendous ambition. Each printed its own paper notes. Each note carried the reputation of the bank that issued it, not the nation as a whole. This is where the nuance becomes important. The country did have a national coinage. The United States Mint had been striking official coins since the 1790s, and those coins were understood to be valid anywhere in the nation. But coins alone could not support a growing economy. They were scarce, unevenly distributed, and often hoarded. In many places, especially in the South and West, they were used sparingly. The daily transactions of American life depended not on coins, but on paper, and paper was now a local phenomenon. A banknote from Philadelphia might be trusted in Baltimore, but a banknote from a small Kentucky bank might be rejected entirely in New York. Value itself had become regional. In prosperous times, such systems can function. Confidence masks instability. Expansion hides fragility, but nothing reveals the strength of a currency system like the arrival of war. In June 1812, Congress declared war on Great Britain. The decision came barely a year after the national bank had closed its doors. The Treasury tried to fund the war by selling bonds, but the response was uneven. New England financiers opposed the conflict and refused to support it. Many other investors doubted whether the government could manage the war without a central bank. State banks printed more notes to help finance the war effort. Paper money multiplied. Gold and silver bled out of circulation as people hoarded the coins they trusted most. By 1814, most banks outside New England stopped redeeming notes in specie. A banknote was now only as good as the belief behind it, and sometimes that belief was thin. The government struggled to make payments. Soldiers waited for wages. Contractors demanded reliable money the Treasury could not always provide. The Jeffersonian experiment in decentralized banking encountered its first real stress test, and the results were unsettling. These were not the dramatic failures of a collapsing system. These were the slow, grinding problems of a system that lacked unity. They were the kind of challenges that make a country feel as if it's straining to move forward, with each region carrying its own version of the load. The cracks widened. By the end of the war, James Madison saw the financial consequences early. He had not become a Hamiltonian in spirit, but reality had showed him something Hamilton had always insisted on. A growing nation needed some form of coordinated financial architecture. In 1816, Madison signed the bill creating the Second Bank of the United States. It bore a close resemblance to Hamilton's original design. The new bank issued a national currency, held government funds, and regulated state banks by demanding they redeem their notes in gold and silver. The return of the bank did not signal that Jefferson's ideals had failed or that Hamilton's had triumphed outright. It revealed something more subtle. Principles guide a nation, but institutions carry its weight. And without the institution Hamilton built, the principles Jefferson championed proved difficult to maintain. The Second Bank stepped into a financial world already distorted by years of unregulated note issuance. Correcting it required restraint and discipline, and those measures would soon ripple through the entire economy. State banks had expanded credit rapidly during the years without a national bank. The war had accelerated this expansion. Western land speculation soared. Southern cotton prices swung sharply on global markets. When the Second Bank began calling in loans and demanding specie, it did not create instability, it exposed it. Businesses that had depended on easy credit found themselves unable to meet obligations. Land values dropped, banks closed, unemployment rose. The recession of 1819 was the nation's first major economic contraction, and though it had many causes, its roots lay in the years when the nation had drifted without a central financial compass. The cracks that began in 1811 had now become part of the national landscape. The story of the first bank's closure is not simply about whether Hamilton or Jefferson was right. It reveals a more complicated truth. The early United States was learning how difficult it was to build a national economy out of the regional experiences and competing visions. A country could believe deeply in local control, yet still struggle when events demanded unified action. It could prefer decentralized power, yet find itself unable to finance a war without national coordination. These tensions would not disappear. They would shape every part of the next decade. Next time, we explore the war that made those tensions impossible to ignore. A conflict that unfolded not as one national experience, but as three regional ones. A war that revealed the fragile seams inside the young republic. Next time, the War of 1812. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Coins, Currency, and American History podcast presented by Littleton Coin Company. You can find out more about coins and currency in our free Learn Center at www.littletoncoin.com/learn. It's filled with fascinating facts about U.S. coins, world coins, ancient coins, paper money, and more.
as well as helpful tips for collectors of all levels. You'll even find free collector guides, checklists, and virtual albums to help you get started and keep track of your growing collection. And while you're there, be sure to check out our online store. Visit www.littletoncoin.com today.